Questions to ask, right? A campaign with the confidence rising. I told WDF don't switch, good times are coming on for deep diving. Fan cams, reactions, watch alongs to the pride of London thriving. The Eagles of South, they flying. Keep your eyes on us, we ain't hiding.
Yes, guys, welcome back to TACT-EAGLE, the show where we talk to you about the tactics for our upcoming game. As always, I'm joined here with my co-host Dan. Dan, how you doing?
Yeah, all good. I'm looking forward to the game on Saturday. For me, it's nice to look forward to a game that I think that we should probably win. I know we should have beaten Villa, but it's nice to get all those runs out of it and see what Roy's doing. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Got a lot of work done, and now I've got 2 weeks off work, and I'm going on holiday. But unfortunately, I picked to go on holiday for the Leeds and the Southampton game, which seems to be the most important games of the season.
Got it. How was your birthday?
Yeah, it was all right. Just chilled out, didn't do much. Went out for a meal at the good old Harvester. If you know.
Classic.
Can't go wrong with a good Harvester. And the red sauce is banging as well. If you know, you know. But one thing we have to say is, did you put a comment if you like the new intro? We changed it around a bit, got some new clips. My favorite one was probably the TACT-EAGLE one. I don't know if you saw that in there.
Yeah. I thought I didn't realize you were asking me a question. Yeah. No, it bangs. The intro bangs.
Yeah. But yeah, let's get straight into it. Chairman says, "Evening, guys."
Evening.
Re-jumping in with eagle emojis. Oh my god, Patrick Vieira has been erased from the theme music. It's making me sad every time seeing Vieira hugging Zaha. I didn't even notice that Vieira wasn't in this one, but I saw someone on Twitter today say that Roy's going to keep us up and Vieira's going to come back. I mean, that's definitely not going to happen.
Well, I mean, you say that.
Yeah, Roy came back,
so never say never. I think that's Steve Parish's motto, isn't it?
Mate, I was having a conversation with a Brighton fan about Steve Parish today, and it just made me more and more upset than while I was talking, because he was just sitting there going, "Oh, Bloom wouldn't have done that." I was like, "Yeah, I bloody know he wouldn't have done that." But this is not a Brighton
I prefer not to speak.
If I speak, I'm in big trouble. Yeah, let's get into it. I'll start off again today. Obviously, we'll start off with what I think our predicted lineups will be. So, we know Roy loves a 4-4-2. So I've built a 4-4-2. It looks a bit more like a 4-4-1-1, but I'll explain it. So in goal, we've got Gaeta, because apparently he's fit to play, which I'm really happy for, because that's going to be a massive plus to us. With Mitchell at left back, Gay at left centre back, Richards at right centre back, with Klein at right back. I've gone with 2 midfield, mostly a defensive midfield, but they can both pivot into attack, or like one pivots into an 8 and the other one pulls in as a 6. However, doesn't really matter, but the 2 in midfield are Lokonga and Decore. Out wide left, I've put Eze, because that's where Roy got the best out of Eze when he was his manager previously. I've put Elise out the right, because I don't think that you can really play anyone else but Elise. And up top, I've got Edouard and Wilf Zaha. The reason I've got Zaha placed where he is because under Roy, Zaha had a free roll as a forward, so he could drift out wide as and when he needed to. So let me grab the ball. Where's it gone? There we go.
That's a tiny ball.
Yeah, it's bigger now. Don't worry. So if we're playing the ball around this side, Zaha will come over this side and create an overload. If the ball's coming through the middle, Zaha will come into the midfield and create a sort of free midfield. If the ball's over here, obviously you make an overload on the right. So him being here really just means he is anywhere in the forward line trying to help attacks. On the bench, I don't even know if I'm predicting the bench, but down here I've just got Hughes, Schlupp, Ayew, Ward, Tompkins, Ahamada, Mateta, Luca, and Whitworth. I was in a big debate with myself whether to put Luca or Gyro, because Roy did love a little bit of Gyro in his last season. And he hasn't actually had that much game time, so he's probably going to come in with something to prove as well. Then let's go to Leicester. So with Leicester, when making their team, I had a look in the injury list, and I see they have a lot of injuries. They have injuries to James Justin, Yuri Tielemans,
Thank you, God.
Sutar, Christiansen. Wout Faes is finished his suspension, so he will be playing. They've got Ryan Bertrand injured, Johnny Evans injured, and Yannick Vestergaard injured. So, taking all that into account, I'm seeing a left back or two left backs, a central midfielder, and 1, 2, 4 centre backs injured. So that means that in goal, I've got Iverson, Castagna, Faes, because he's back from his suspension, Amate, even though he is a defensive midfielder, he does play centre back for Ghana, and he has played centre back for them before. I'm pretty sure he played centre back in our game against them early on in the season, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Pereira with Drewsbury Hall, Ndidi, Madison, Barnes, Tete, and Patson Daka up front. Dan, what are you thinking about our team first? Are you picking that same team, or are you changing something?
Mine was near enough similar. I just put mine as a 4-4-2 as Zaha next to Edouard. I think both of them are capable of. I think they work together quite well, and I think they're quite good at interchanging as well. So I found that when Zaha played on the left and Edouard on the in the middle, I felt like they did that quite a lot. The only other differences I made was I did Ward instead of Klein, and I did Hughes instead of Lokonga, but I could have quite easily gone Lokonga.
Definitely. With their lineup, is that something similar to what you think they will play? Bear in mind their injuries.
Literally the same. The only difference is that I put Ward in, but I didn't realise that he stopped playing because he's so terrible. He gets kept out of the Wales team by Wayne Hennessy.
Oh, big up Wayne, Palace legend. Yeah, so this is going to be our first game under Roy, playing in a new formation and just seeing what happens. Really, he's had a bit of time. He's had 2 weeks to work with the players and to see what he can do with them. His interview. Have you seen the interview that he gave to Palace the other day?
I've got to be completely truthful with you. Over the national break, I've tried to phase as much Palace out as possible.
Don't worry. That weekend that we had without any Palace was actually really good. I'm not gonna lie. But basically, in his interview with the club, he basically said all the right things. He says he wants to see passion. He wants to see everyone fight for it. Everyone in the club is looking at the same goal. The main goal is to maintain Premier League status and to not fall away. Try and do the best you can, and we'll see where we go. So obviously saying all the right things that we want to hear, but the first game is going to be the thing that we really want to know about. If you guys don't know, everyone bring a scarf.
Yeah, I'll be bringing one. So
yeah, I think everyone will be. So if you don't bring a scarf because you think it's going to look terrible, it might look terrible because you're not bringing a scarf. So bring your damn scarf.
To be honest, same people would say and not do that. Stand in silence anyway. when they
Yeah.
play the game. So
Exactly. So, Leicester are a weird team. They set up in many different formations. As you can see here, we've got them in a 4-2-3-1 formation. Brendan Rodgers is not a person to develop his own tactics. He'll steal other people's tactics and then fine tune it to the players he has. So he'll sometimes play this. He has played a 4-1-4-1 formation earlier in the season. He has played a 3 at the back formation when they got peppered by Spurs. I think he played a 4-4-2 at one point, and like a different kind of variation to this 4-2-3-1. I think it's more like a 4-2-2-2. It was something really strange, but you know, with that kind of variety of formations and playing styles, it's a bit confusing in what they're going to play against us. So I'm not sure where we really go from here. Which formation do you think they would play?
I think they'll play that one there. I think they'll play the 4-2-3-1 because I think they have had some success with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree, they're a very weird team. And without going too much into it, I think they get bailed out a lot by the fact individually they've got some very good players.
Yeah.
I think tactically, if you base it purely on the tactics, I would say they're one of the worst teams in the league at the moment.
You heard it here first from Statman Dan. So, do you want to go over how Palace can hurt them tactically, or how they could hurt us, or how we would deal with them?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so do you want to hit this first, or should I?
You can go first. So you're already sharing, so you can go first, and then I'll go again.
Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to say about Leicester is that they are super attacking with their fullbacks. So let's move these guys up the pitch a bit. So their forwards like to be inside forwards. So they do like to come inside of the fullback, come in between the half space between the defensive line and the midfield line. So we'll see Harvey Barnes coming inside, Tete coming inside. And then you'll see both fullbacks at all times up. And you might be thinking, hold on a second. That leaves them with 2 centre-backs. It does. And that's something that makes it very interesting. So Maddison will pull out a little bit wider. Dewsbury Hall is a fantastic number 8, great box-to-box midfielder. And bear in mind, they haven't got the fastest centre-backs in the league. They will play a decently high line. The key point to this team is Wilfred Ndidi. He'll sit just in front of the centre-backs and make near enough a back three. And basically, Brendan Rodgers will leave everyone else up. So, I don't know if you'd say suicide left back, suicide right back, or suicide fullbacks, but it looks a little bit that way. But they do it to create overloads. So, down here, you'll see a 2v1 against Klein. If the ball comes this way, you'll see a 2v1 against Richards, and obviously the same thing will happen as you go around the pitch. It's very interesting because the striker, whether it be Daka or Vardy, they won't be in the build-up play too much, but they do like to make diagonal runs into the box to draw players out, to move midfielders out of position, to move centre-backs out of a position so the other inside forward can get on the end of it. So let's show you an example here. So the ball's been worked. They're using their triangles because they've got 3 overloads in here. We're not cutting the ball out. The ball comes to Dewsbury Hall. Daka will make this run, most likely. And that ball, obviously, Dewsbury Hall could make it. That would move Richards to block it. Gay will have to come over, and that leaves Tete free. And he's been a great buy for them. He's been able to score from these positions, to drive into the box and cut it back to Daka again. It's very interesting in how they attack because, as Dan has said, is very simple and tactically is not the greatest thing in the world. But because of the standard of player that they've got, like Pereira is probably one of the best right backs outside of the top 6. Tete is an incredible winger. Daka on his day is great, but that's the key question there. On his day, Harvey Barnes is consistently great at scoring equalizers, and Castagna, we wanted him when we saw Wan-Bissaka, didn't we?
Maybe. I mean, Castagna plays on the left, so I'm not sure.
With Maddison and Shrewsbury Hall supplying the attacking runs, and they're both great passers. They both can get back. So it's interesting to see how they do that. But how we stop it, as a Roy Hodgson way of playing football, is very Roy, isn't it? You just block out. You just go man for man. Don't let them do anything.
Yeah.
So you will see everyone standing off of everyone, basically. So I don't know. I'll probably make a statement here and say that when we are defending, genuinely, I think we will not come out of this area when we don't have the ball. Apart from Zaha, probably, because in for example, when Roy was our manager, in corners, Zaha always stood on the halfway line because he took a defender away from the corner, and that's good. That's a great way of getting using attack as your best form of defense. However, it is only one player, so in this case, Ndidi might even step up and just give Zaha, and because Zaha's not got the legs he used to have, Amate and FaZe, they could do a job on him. And because we are in such a low block, it's going to be so hard for us to get out, even with a through ball. Zaha hasn't got the legs to run onto it these days. But I think that this form of defending, of just standing off and making them have to pull out something incredible just to get through us, is probably the right way to deal with this Leicester team under Brendan Rodgers, if I'm honest. No, nothing fancy, no trickery with the players, how they're set up. No, I think just literally stand off them, let them make their own mistake, intercept the ball and counter-attack fast. Because of how far up their fullbacks are, if we get possession of the ball and we break with pace, Castagna's not the fastest guy in the world, Maddison's not the fastest guy in the world, Shrewsbury Hall's not the fastest guy in the world, and let's be real, in my life, I don't think I've ever seen Harvey Barnes track back. Tete is a newer player, so I haven't really watched much of him. And Patson Daka, unless the ball's on the floor, he doesn't seem like a very lethal striker. I would be much more afraid if they played Iheanacho or Vardy. But
how quick would you say Daka is? Because I've not seen that much of Daka. Like, would you say he's quick or?
I think for his time at his previous club, you could see him exercise the pace because that team played in a low block and braked a lot. With Daka's pace, I'd say is good. It's a good amount of pace, but genuinely, I think Richards and Gay are probably quicker.
Yeah,
because I have seen Richards was Marshall in Rashford, and I'd say he's one of the fastest players in the league. And I've seen Gay catch up to Adama Traore before, and I know no one really does that. So, but because of how Daka is built and set up as a player, to me looks like more of a winger than a striker. So if the ball's not to his feet, if the ball's in the air, he's not the most lethal guy in the world.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree.
With how they are as a team in the attacking phase, They have only scored 6 goals from set pieces this year.
And I bet, I mean, I haven't looked myself, but I'm guessing some of those would be Madison free kicks, I'm guessing.
Yes. I think there was 2 of them were free kicks and the rest were corners or headers from a free kick. Do you want to know where we are? So bear in mind, in the table, if you put it that way, Leicester are 12th in converting set pieces. Do you know where we are?
Probably like, actually, we've not been too bad. We're probably like 14th.
So they're 12th.
Yeah.
With 6 goals from set pieces. We have scored 9 goals
Oh.
from set pieces.
Yeah, because I think we've actually scored a decent amount from corners this year, haven't we? And I know Elise scored
2 free kicks.
Yeah, 2 free kicks.
Yeah, so we're actually top 10 when it comes to converting free kicks and set pieces.
Blimey.
Which was actually a surprise to me. And I think the even more surprising thing is we've only conceded 4 goals from set pieces.
That was one of the things I always defended Vieira about, was that he did turn around that.
Whereas something that we can exploit is that Leicester have conceded 10.
I thought that too, but I was looking at how many goals we scored from corners under Roy. And for a guy who literally puts Pox the bus, right? I'm shocked how few corners we scored under him. Even in that season where we scored more goals than we did in the 1991 season, in 18-19, we only scored 3 from corners that season. Like, I was shocked like how little we scored corners under Roy, but I agree. They're terrible. And the thing is, it's not even like they've been unlucky this season. They were terrible at corners last season too. I think they conceded the most goals from corners last season.
Yeah, and I'm sure that Vieira's teachings of defending set pieces, it's not going to go away overnight, is it?
No.
So I think. Yeah, go on.
No, I was just going to say, and to be fair, Roy, whilst we did score many under him, we also didn't concede many either.
Definitely. But that's where I stand on the Leicester going forward and us defending them tactic. Where do you stand on it?
I think that definitely works. I don't think they break down low blocks very well. Let me share my screen now. Right. Where do you want to do some comments?
We can do some comments. Rich, at Thunder Road, I know regarding PV it had to be done though. We've told CM about the extra verse. Yes, we saw CM not long ago and we told him that you want that next verse and he says he'll think about it. I think Roy should play 4-4-2, Amate at centre back. Paz can only hope. I think Leicester will start. I think Suato is injured, but FaZe is he served his suspension. I think we should play Zaha, 2 strikers and Zaha on the wing. Who would you play up front then? Would you play Edouard and Ayew? Edouard and Mateta? Big up Santi. Big up Earth. Big up Gunnar. Don't forget to smash the like. I think it's a great idea. Don't see why not.
Me too.
Gets all the fans together. Gets us excited to do something. And where Tompkins starts over Richards. If Anderson isn't fit, it's a possibility. And if we're honest, in a low block where we're not going to be playing out at the back, you know, I don't think it's going to be as bad as playing Tompkins under Vieira. Quite relaxed. Feeling in it, Eze will flourish. Yeah, we're excited to see Eze play. Talk about Eze. Give me that 20% possession 1-0.
I'd take that all day long.
What's the thing that that Lucas said to Benteke when he jumped on his back after scoring is smash and grab, baby. Or was that? No, that was Ward, wasn't it? Cheers, man. Anderson's definitely out. Yep. Cool. Dan,
Right.
take it away.
Right, here we go. So I've set mine up. Leicester in white, I apologise because I started doing Palace in blue and then I realised and I was like, I can't be asked changing it. So defensively, I agree. I think that in a low block, Leicester aren't very good at breaking them down. But I'm going to look at the other end of the pitch, what we can do defending the other end of the pitch, because I do think they are quite vulnerable at the other end. I know I've got some players that are different, but yeah, just bear with me. I think if you press them relatively high, they're really not very good at getting the ball out. So say they got the ball here. What they'll do is they'll do something similar to what we do. And the ball will end up, let's say, with Pereira. And I noticed this when they played Aston Villa, all it took for them to lose the ball was for their players to be mocked, basically. That's all it took. So say Daka's over here, so on and so forth. All it took was for their players to be marked like that. So if you've got all their players marked or covered or something like that, what do? Similar to what we do, they just end up kicking it long. So if Zaha's pressuring Pereira, kicks it long, right? And then we win the ball back because it's over here. Same thing on the other side. If the ball ends up with Castagna, all our players got to do is block off these passing lanes, make sure like Edouard is closing in. It doesn't even have to be a particularly aggressive press. Villa didn't do a particularly aggressive press in this particular game, but what it meant was that Castagna just hoofed it, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, you might be thinking, well, there's a lot of space in the back here, so maybe that's going to be quite dangerous, right? They've got all this space. Oh, for God's sake. They've got all this space, which normally equals danger, right? Well, not Leicester City, because say it gets a bit lucky and it ends up like over here, and you're Daka chasing it. The problem is, I agree with JC that Richards and Gay are both quick. So regardless of where Daka gets it, whether it's on this side, I think Gay and Richards have got that covered all day long. And all they got to do is a simple pass back to the goalkeeper, and then you're back away. And I noticed this was something that they did quite often, not even necessarily with just a fullback. So say if, I don't know, Eze's fallen asleep or whatever, so Tete's got the ball. What I notice they will try and do is that they will try and put these long, Jesus, I'm having a mare. Try and ping these balls down these channels. Now, the problem is that worked when Jamie Vardy wasn't 36 years old and was a first team regular.
And he had the raps.
Yeah, he was absolutely rapid. But the problem is now is, like JC was saying, Daka's quick, but not that quick. So Gay's on him. And also, if this is a high ball, Gay's got the beating of them aerially. And that's whether it's Daka or Iheanacho. And that's something which I think is really easy to defend against. In fact, I was surprised as well how little. And this game, the particular game I watched, had Tielemans in it as well. So you'd expect him to be making space, but they didn't. These two defensive midfielders just didn't move, really. And yeah, that was one thing that I think you could do. As long as you're blocking off these lanes, whether it's here or there, and you're getting relatively close to the fullbacks, I think they're going to lump it long, basically.
Yeah, well, something that's very funny that I'm seeing from what you're saying is that Leicester are a hell of a lot like us when we was under under Vieira.
Yeah.
Same formation, exactly. No movement. When in doubt, hoof it out, really.
Yeah, no, exactly. And one of the problems is, let's say they do get up here, and this is pretty much like what you were saying, JC. But when they do get to say like over here, and we're having to defend a little bit, let's say over here. So we're back in this 4-4-2. One thing I noticed, maybe because I said I haven't really watched Daka that much. I watched more Iheanacho. But when they have the ball, say like over here, right? So let's say Tetty's got the ball. They kind of like line up like this. So like what I noticed was that, do you notice, like, I noticed that the attacker tends to pull like wide.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it would make more sense if it was over here because that's when I actually saw it. So Daka's, well, I don't know about Daka, but certainly Iheanacho pulls to this side over here. So what that means is that you've got, like, again, similar to us under Vieira at times, you've got no one here. Absolutely no one, because
No one in the danger area.
No one's attacking that space. And I think they need that. I think they played for so long with a striker who was an excellent focal point, brilliant at running the channels. Like, if that was Vardy, he would be in there making this run, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
But not because he doesn't really play anymore, because he is 36 years old. Or at least I haven't seen him play that much. They have this big gap here where no one really makes those runs anymore. And I think that's partially of why they're kind of failing a little bit. One thing I will say about Daka or Iheanacho, though, is that if they are in the box, that's where they're quite good. They're good poachers, they're good finishers. So let's say someone does fall asleep over here, and then, I don't know, Castagna's made that overlapping run, and he can whip a ball in there. Gay or whoever needs to be really alert, or Mitchell needs to be really alert of where they are, because they'll pull into space, and if you're not careful, they will find that space, and then they will finish. Because like I said earlier, Leicester tactically are terrible, but they've got some individually brilliant players. So all it takes is for Castagna to whip in a good cross, and then for their striker to find space, and then that's 1-0. They're two players that you wouldn't want to give too many opportunities to.
Well, yeah, we've seen it with Iheanacho before. His first time finishing is just incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think Leicester's problem in that case is just like they've profiled their strikers wrong, or at least they're playing them in the wrong way. Because Daka and Iheanacho aren't going to be making runs in behind all day. They're not that kind of striker. But because Leicester do seem to pump it long, if you put them even under the slightest bit of pressure, then that completely falls into our hands, especially when we have a fast and strong centre backs like Gay and Richards. And that's backed up by the fact that, aerial duels won, right? Guess how many, guess what percentage Patson Daka has won of his 39 duels this season?
I'm guessing
aerial duels.
I'm guessing like 25%.
35.9. So a bit better than I anticipated. But guess how many Iheanacho's won of his 26?
60.
15.
Whoo!
He's won 4 aerial duels all season.
So he doesn't jump, basically.
No. Well, no, apparently not. And when he's coming up against like Gay or Richards, I can't. Do you know what I mean? I can't see him winning that unless he's free in the box. He's not winning that header. Put it that way.
I'll put it this way: if he's free in the box, he'll wait for it to come down to his foot instead of his head, won't he?
Yeah, exactly. And I think you made it quite clear where Leicester's woes lay. So Leicester, in terms of their XG conceded, they currently sit at where are they? They currently sit 5th worst in the table. They concede on average 1.62 XG per game.
Oh, okay. What's ours? Out of curiosity.
That we concede.
Yes.
Concede, we are 1.40, which considering the teams we've played, I actually think it's pretty decent.
I think one thing as well that we can exploit is that let me pull up my one again quickly. So one thing that we can definitely exploit, for example, when they are attacking, is Ndidi. Funny enough, even though he is a great player, great defensive midfielder, with a ball at his feet, he's not the best in the world. And a way that the Tottenham took advantage of when they played this high line after they snatched the ball, or even when Leicester was still in possession, for some reason, we do it as well. If the ball's over here and there's no way round, you recycle the ball. So clearly you go centre back out here. But they always go straight to Ndidi. They never actually go to the centre back, which I think is interesting because even if Amate is free, they'll still go to Ndidi. The thing about Ndidi is on the ball, as I said, he's not the best in the world and he's very prone to having a very heavy touch. So, let's say something like this is happening. The ball's with Maddison. The Conga's gone up to press him. Gay's here. Richards is holding Daka. Zaha's come inside. Maddison can see. Shrewsbury Hall's free. Turns around. And he can pass it to Ndidi. The thing is that if this pass is happening and Zaha's making that run as well, and Edouard squeezes, because they do press like that. Edouard has come and pressed from behind as well a few times in the last few games. What Ndidi does is he doesn't kick the ball from underneath himself. He likes to poke it out in front, take an extra touch, and then kick it. If you're being pressed by two players, these guys are going to snatch the ball. And for someone that's touted as highly as Ndidi, that's a very rookie mistake to make very constantly, because he does it all the time. He does it like 5 or 6 times a game. So if we just pressure that heavy touch and pounce on it, that's a great way to break, because behind Ndidi, you've only got 2 defenders now. And if we are brave, we can cause overload. Oops. So if we are brave, Edouard can turn, run, Eze can come in, Elise can come in, and Zahabi's behind to support. So the counter-attack is there, and that is exactly Roy's bread and butter, isn't it? The second you get the ball, you throw everyone up the pitch, and I think it will work. I don't see why it won't, because tactically they don't really have anything there for defence, do they? It's all going forwards, and as you said, if their key players don't perform, then Leicester aren't going to perform. And we saw that at the start of the season when they had a really bad injury problem where they actually had to play Amate and Ndidi at centre-back, who were both DMs, and then they had to play Samare in the actual defensive midfield position. But he's much better on the ball, but he can't do the defensive work that Ndidi can do. So in that way, it's very interesting to see how Brendan Rodgers is still so stubborn that he didn't change anything. He just tried to push through it. And when his players came back, obviously their form picked up, but now their players have gone out injured again. You're starting to see their form go down again.
Yeah, no, for sure. And to be honest, like one thing I noticed as well, like defensively, even let's say that they do let us have the ball because let's say that we've got the ball kind of like here.
Yeah.
They seem, even though their formation is a 4-2-3-1 or whatever, they seem to drop into a 4-4-2. I noticed. Now, I'm sure you can see one problem immediately with maybe some of these players in this formation. I mean,
Maddison ain't a striker, first and foremost.
And I mean, like, not as in like he be playing in a striker role, but in terms of the defensive work, as in this is when we've got the ball. So let's say we've got the ball like here.
Okay. Well, the first thing that I can see is I wouldn't want Maddison pressing because you'd want him to stay as healthy as possible to pick some passes. And if anything, you'd want him a little bit deeper. Like the better way for them to set up defensively is probably 4-5-1. Keep Maddison a bit deeper to maybe hit that vertical pass to Daka. But if he's all the way up the pitch, then he's got to do the legwork and the running.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, he doesn't even really do the running. So I noticed that Maddison and Daka don't really do anything in defence. So Maddison might close down the ball a bit, but I noticed he didn't really do anything. But also the fact that now we know as fans of a team that has played under RHEA, we know it's been drilled into us that if you play a 4-4-2, your wide players need to do defensive work.
Yeah.
Now, Tete doesn't really do that. Barnes doesn't really do that. Dewsbury Hall, I could be making a fool of myself here, but I'm fairly certain is not a central midfielder.
No, he's an 8. He is a box to box. Okay.
So effectively what you've got are players playing in positions that they shouldn't, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've been doing things that they're not good at doing. Now I saw countless times, right? And this is something that we could exploit, even if like we're more on the front foot or whatever. So let's say we're here. Let's say Eze's come inside and we're like this. One thing I noticed that was really clear was that this half space is really open, and it really doesn't take a lot for someone to manipulate it. So let's say that Mitchell's running with bringing the ball forwards, right? Now, the example I saw wasn't with Tete; it was actually on the other side, but with Barnes. But I noticed because Tete and Barnes aren't defensively the best, he'll just come running straight out, which in theory is fine, right? But if you're set up like so let's say this. So Mitchell's brought the ball, he's going to run out. Now, what we need to do, Eze needs to make that run, and then Edouard needs to make this run. Because of this, because Tete's not timed it well, and because defensively they're so poor, Pereira won't come out. Like there's no talking between Tete and Pereira. There's no talking. I think they just think that they can telepathically communicate. Like I said, it wasn't these two specific players, but this is the general gist of what I got with Leicester defending. What you got to do is pass that ball to Zaha. Pereira is going to be in no man's land. By this point, Eze should be making this run here. Amate is going to come along, but this pass here, I don't know, maybe he comes inside a little bit and then makes the pass. Eze makes his pass, and then you're in space here with Amate, that Rio is doing. And if Edouard's doing what he should be doing, you're here. He's going to be the wrong side, and so on. And then the other players will be roughly around here somewhere. That happened quite a lot when I watched Leicester back. That exploit is really, really damaging to Leicester. And like I said, they've got the 5th worst XG against this season per 90. So things like this really does not shock me. Also, the fact that they do play a 4-4-2 means there is lots of space in the middle. So let's just bring it back a little bit. Just bring it back a little bit. So let's say we're here. Sorry, let me just go here. That means there's going to be lots of space in this middle because they play that 4-4-2.
Half space, baby.
Yeah, so there's going to be lots of space in between the lines. So, again, what I would like to see, so Eze's drifted inside because that's what he did last time he played under Roy. What I would like to see with these two is one of them, it doesn't matter who, but one of them, I think Zaha would be better at doing this, should make the run that way. So then you're dragging a Marty out the way, and then Edward should be coming in here to find that space. Because on him, Fies knows what he's doing, so he's just going to stand there. But if Edward actually drops, if I can actually select him, if he drops, he's there to receive that ball. I don't know, maybe Eze's made a run inside, Zaha's over here somewhere. You know, you've got a lot of space to really work with. What I don't want to see, and it's going to bring me pain because I feel like I am probably going to see it. What I don't want is to see Edward and Zaha making that same
run.
That's what I don't want to see, because all you're doing is just dragging both centre backs back. You're not really doing anything. Whereas if you're doing one but not the other, you're dragging them out of position. You're dragging them out of this nice line. All someone's got to do is make that run there, and then they're onside, and so on and so forth. But that was pretty much everything I had off the top of my head.
I think one thing that's important about the ways that you've just mentioned is that it's very important to get in front of the defender.
Yeah.
And that's something that Edward has struggled with sometimes. He struggled with getting in front of the defender, and he's tried to run around the back post. It's just the thing is that when you get so close to the byline, you can only pull it back so far, really. And if you're hiding behind someone, then it's almost impossible for the ball to come to you unless it's in the air. But I doubt you're getting the ball in the air from there. I think we've covered everything. But I'd like to shoot you a question.
Go on, Em.
We know how Roy plays. We know how he likes to have his wide players play. He's got Zaha playing. He got Zaha playing really well, and even under Vieira, Zaha's been defending very well. The question I ask to you is, can Elise do the job Townsend done defensively?
Yes.
Because he's going to have to help out Ward or Klein, and that's going to be a bigger ask than Zaha helping Mitchell.
If you'd asked me in October, I would have said no. But in the last few months, I genuinely think Elise's put in a lot of work defensively. Even when he gave away that penalty, I think he gave it away because he was the only one switched on. Because, for example, that particular penalty, he was the one that noticed. Was it Gundogan, wasn't it? No, it's Gundogan was acres in space. He ran towards him. And ironically, do you know the person who was meant to be picking him up? Jordan Ayew. So I think he can, and I think he will play Elise over Ayew. If Ayew's not playing up front or something like that.
Yeah. And the last question is Edward Zaha or Ayew Zaha up front?
Edward Zaha. I think Edward is good when he has someone next to him. And I know I've moaned about Zaha being not very good up front in the past, but again, I think if he has someone next to him, I think he's decent. And again, as long as they're making different runs, that's the main thing. As long as they're both not trying to do the same run, that's fine. I personally think Zaha will be better running the channels and Edward dropping into the space that's been created by Zaha doing that.
Definitely.
And I think as well, what Ayew doesn't carry any goal threat either. Whereas Edward, whilst he hasn't played as well, I do think he's more likely to take a chance than Ayew is.
Finally, Patrick here says it's time for 4-4-2 with Zaha and Elise up top. No. No. That we know that it works with Townsend and Zaha, but that was when they were both fast, and these guys are both not fast.
Yeah.
I think that just shuts down that statement already. So apologies.
Sorry, Patrick.
Yeah. Apart from that, I think we're all good. Anything else that you want to bring up, mate?
No, not really. The only thing I would say about Leicester is that they've actually picked up more points away from home this season. But I think that's more just a function of them being absolutely diabolical at home.
Yeah, well, you can counter that and say we've got most of our points at home. So
Yeah, definitely.
You know.
We're definitely better at home.
But as always, this was TACT-EAGLE against Leicester. Don't forget to put your score predictions in the Discord if you haven't already. Like, share, subscribe. And this is Eagle Eyed Football. This is me. That's Dan. We're out. Up the palace. Eagle!